The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter. Hello and welcome to Politics with GA. The Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria staged a protest at the National Assembly over the non-payment of their salaries and allowances. The protesting staff of the National Assembly, under the aegis of PASSAN, barricaded the legislative chambers over non-payment of their consolidated salary structure, CONLES. The protest, which took place at the lobby of the Senate, took place amid tight security. The aggrieved staff were seen carrying placards with various graffiti demanding for their immediate release of their salaries. The chairman of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, Mr. Bature Musa, revealed that the intention of the protest was not to have a face-off with the legislators. He said lawmakers will not be prevented from accessing the red and green chambers when they arrive. The protesting workers were seen singing songs against the clerk of the National Assembly while carrying placards bearing words like "Omolori must go." CONLES has been approved since 2010. No welfare incentives for staff since 18 years now. We need alert and many others, he said. The Senate President addressed the protesting workers and promised them that he would see that their grievances are addressed.
We are taking full responsibility, the issue of the Senate and the Speaker and the issue of the House, and the area management, as you know, deals with the management and yourselves. But as leadership of this place, the responsibility is for us to also find solutions. They have raised a number of issues today. One of them that they have raised has to do with the condition of service. Let me assure you that we're on the same page to ensure the implementation.
26 loyalists of the Ogun State Governor, Mr. Gbenga Aborowa, have announced their defection from the All Progressive Congress to the Allied People's Movement. The defectors were the aggrieved members of the APC who claim to have won the legislative primaries of the APC conducted by the State Election Committee, appointed by the National Working Committee held on the 8th of October in the state. The spokesperson for the group, Mr. Lamidi Olatunji, said they were declared winners by the committee chairman, Colonel Ali Roma, retired, but were refused the Independent National Electoral Commission forms for the nomination of the party as candidate for the elections till it closed on the 2nd of December. Speaking on the role of Governor Amosu on their defection, Mr. Olatunji said they took the decision without the input of their boss. And still in Ogun State, Governor Gbenga Aborowa has said that he will do everything in his power to ensure the success of Mr. Adekunle Akinlade, who recently defected from the All Progressive Congress to the APM in the upcoming Ogun State gubernatorial election. He said this at a stakeholders meeting of the APC, which was attended by his preferred governorship candidate, Mr. Akinlade. Mr. Aborowa said he had tried his best to stop the defection of Mr. Akinlade and other aggrieved candidates to the Allied People's Movement. Governor Aborowa also stated that he would not support the governorship candidate of the APC, Mr. Dapo Abiodun. The Muhammadu Buhari and Atiku Abubakar presidential campaigns engage in an exchange of words, accusing each other of planning to rig the forthcoming 2019 elections and being hypocrites to a reinforced electoral act. The argument stated that as three presidential candidates began a judicial process to stop President Buhari from signing the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The accusation was backed up by the continued procrastination on a presidential assent to the amended Electoral Act. The bill passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly gives a legal framework to the use of the card reader and electronic transmission of votes across the country. While dismissing insinuations of Buhari's hesitance to sign the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the spokesman of the Buhari campaign organization, Mr. Festus Keyamo, stated that before the 2015 elections, President Buhari and the APC were the strongest supporters of the card readers, which is now the central issue in the debate. He accused the PDP and the Atiku campaign of supporting what he alleged as a plot by the National Assembly to remove the card reader from the penultimate bill that was sent to the president. The Independent National Electoral Commission has said that it will use devices to track campaign expenses of political parties for the upcoming 2019 general elections. This was said by Professor Mahmoud Yakub, the chairman of the commission. He also warned incumbent elected public office holders against using state resources to fund campaigns. He quoted Section 100, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act to this effect. The section states that the state apparatus shall not be employed to the advantage or disadvantage of any political party or candidate at an election. It said this through his representative, Professor Antonia Okosi-Simbine. The Commission's National Commissioner in Abuja doing a stakeholders roundtable with the theme 2019 elections, political corruption and other emerging issues. According to him, the Commission has also reviewed and redesigned its campaign finance tracking and reporting forms that would be used by parties, candidates and observers. The big question is, are the law enforcement agencies ready? And how far is INEC ready to go with enforcement? It's a few months to the general elections and 702,021 permanent voters' cards are yet to be collected, according to INEC's Public Affairs Officer, Mr. Femi Akimbi. He said in readiness for the 2019 elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission in Lagos has started training members of the NYSC on the use of smart card readers. And it said on the number of PVCs collected so far in Lagos as of November 14th, not up to 85,000 people who were registered in the last CVR had collected their PVCs. It will be recalled that in 2015, Governor Akinwumi Ambode scored 811,994 votes to defeat Mr. Jimmy Agbaje of the People's Democratic Party, who polled 659,788 votes. You can see why it is important to get your PVCs. I spoke with Mr. Olubankole Wellington, the House of Representatives candidate for the Modern Democratic Party for Etiosa Federal Constituency, about his plans for the people of Etiosa and his decision to run for office. It's a few months to the general elections. Are you happy with the quality of governance and also the quality of opposition in Nigeria?
The quality of governance and the quality of opposition. So I'll say that when it's about governance, I think that I've pretty much been a vocal critic of bad governance in Nigeria for the greater part of the last 10 years. And so I've done every protest that you can think of. I was part of Enough is Enough.
Occupy Nigeria.
I was part of Occupy Nigeria. I was part of Light Up Nigeria. I was part of Bring Back Our Girls. I've been part of every protest of people kind of trying to voice their opinions and take to the streets to kind of make some noise to pressure the government into action. And so I would say that I'm definitely not quite satisfied. I don't think that we're anywhere where we should be. I think that we have a long way to go. But I'm also tired of talking about it. I'm tired. It feels like our generation tends to just want to talk. We tend to want to tweet and talk and complain.
Without the doing part.
Without doing it. And you know, there's only so long that you can talk. If you're not willing to kind of stick your neck out and put your hands in and try and be a part of the solution, then, you know, it feels like being an Arsenal fan. We were just talking about the games before this. And it's like, you know, when you're a fan, you know, you tweet, you complain, maybe you protest, maybe you fly a banner, maybe you go to the game or you don't go to the game. But unless you are part of the club, unless you're part of the system, then there's limitations onto how much you can impact it and how much you can change it. And that's what I'm trying to do now.
Like you said, you've always been outspoken about the state of affairs in the country and been a critic of bad governance and incompetence. What led you to throw your heart into the murky waters of politics, as few people might call it?
When I was, when I had kind of prayed about it internally and had started coming to the place where I decided that I was going to try and, you know, make a run for it, the first person obviously that I would speak to would be my wife. And I remember in those first conversations when I said, hey, I'm thinking about kind of doing this thing, her concern was how dirty and dangerous politics is. And I said, you know, politics in Nigeria is very dirty and very dangerous. But until good people decide to become a part of that system and decide to infiltrate the system and try to change it, or at least try to contribute to the change, then it'll always be dirty and dangerous. It'll always be exactly how it is.
What triggered it for you? I mean, because you're an influencer, you do positive music, and you could get your message across through your music and activism. Yeah. What was that thing that said, look, I can't sit back and watch anymore? So here's what it was.
You know, I originally, like you said, I originally always kind of saw myself more as an influencer, almost like more Martin Luther King, using the platform, using the voice to kind of make noise about the issue. But then I realized that there's nobody coming. There's nobody coming, and in the sense that not in the way that we need them to come. So we have alternatives for president and stuff, but I don't know how many of those are realistic, you know, unless we kind of unified and had one person to give a third option that was clear cut. I don't know how many of those alternatives are realistic. You want to be president of the country, you need 25% of the votes in 2/3 of the states. The change we don't need change just from the presidential position. We need change at all levels of government. And I was looking around in my campaigning to say, young people, let's get our PVCs. And then I said, you know, there's a lack of people understanding that we need to get in and start small. You fix a country like Nigeria by fixing one community at a time, by fixing the House of Rep seats and the State House of Assembly and the legislator and the lawmakers. You know, you dream big, but you start small. Everybody wants to be Obama, but people don't realize that Obama started in the community. He was a community worker before he got into the State House, before he became a senator, before he now said, I want to be president. So for me, it was like, well, if there's nobody else coming to do this the right way, as in dreaming big but starting small and understanding that we can start to change community by community, law by law, you know, person by person, one mind at a time, one school at a time, one community at a time. If nobody else understands that that's what I feel is necessary, then, you know, you want something done, sometimes you have to get up and do it yourself. And so that's...
In your TED Talk, you did mention that Nigerians need to get up and fix this country because it's quite dysfunctional if you look at the state of affairs, and all indices that indicate the level of human development were basically in the bottom rung. And that leads me to this question. You are running for a seat in the Federal House of Representatives for Etiosa Federal Constituency. What needs to be fixed in Etiosa, and why do you want to go to the House of Reps? Why do you think it's the channel for you to fix things here? So
for me, I would say this. I'd say, first of all, Etiosa, like we were discussing off camera, is essentially a microcosm of Nigeria as a whole. So you have people from every tribe. You have Hausa people, Yoruba people, Igbo people, people from all walks of life here. You have the richest people in Banana Island. You have the poorest people, you know, in parts of Obalende and Ajah and things like that. You have the best of schools, if you talk about like the private schools that the average Nigerian can't afford. And then you have the worst of schools, the schools that don't have one working computer, the schools that have students who are being set up as we speak for failure. You have the best of healthcare, if you want to talk about the really expensive hospitals in VI, but you have the worst of healthcare. You have people who can't afford to pay the very basic of medical bills. The problems that we face in Etiosa are problems that Nigeria faces as a whole, and some of them have been there for ages. I mean, case in point, look at how much we generate as a community in the two toll gates, in the Lekki Axis and in the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge. Every day we generate an obscene amount of money in these toll gates, but we still have potholes. Like, that makes zero sense to me. And so for me, it was like, okay, how do I get into government and say, let me start to change things that I think can work? I think that there are things that we can do as far as, so it's important for people to know that there are different levels of government, right? So the president is responsible for some things, your governor is responsible for some things. Every level of government has its area of responsibility. Now, I feel like, as a whole, Nigeria is lacking the kind of lawmakers that we need. Lawmakers that understand that it is issues that concern the youth that should be, you know, foremost to them, that should be on their agenda. So Education should be on your agenda. Healthcare, affordable healthcare should be on your agenda. Gender equality should be on your agenda. Job creation and youth inclusion. These are things that will directly impact our community. Yes, in a House of Rep seat, you know, I can't come in and say, oh, I'll give you light or I'll fix every pothole in the community.
Yeah, that brings me to this question.
Okay.
It's not an executive position.
Absolutely not.
And you would have to work with 359 other members
Absolutely.
of representatives that
Yeah.
want to bring quality governance to their constituents, because that's the mandate they have. How do you hope to achieve this, knowing that, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, but the modern Democratic Party is not going to have a majority in Parliament?
Absolutely not. So the modern Democratic Party is only actually for, as far as the House of Representatives go, we're only going for 2 seats in the House. One in Ondo State and this seat in Etiosa in Lagos. But the good thing with that is, because we're not on, you know, either side of this conundrum in terms of the powers that be in Nigeria, then we can work with anybody. So because I'm not, you know, if you're APC, then everybody in PDP is sworn to go against you.
Your enemy,
If you're PDP, everybody in APC is sworn to go against you. And then there are people in Nigeria who, if you mention APC or PDP, a vast majority, or at least a big population of the people, because of certain characters in both parties, have sworn off both parties entirely. So what we're saying is, as MDP, we're coming in from the standpoint of, we're not on anybody's side, we're on the side of the young people of Nigeria, and we're on the side of Nigeria as a whole. So we are going to be focused on the things that are on the side of Nigerians, especially young Nigerians.
Pro-Nigerians.
And then, if anybody from either of the major parties happens to fall on the side of young Nigerians when it comes to legislature, that's who we're going to be able to work with. So we're not coming in saying, oh, we're siding with this ones over that ones. We're just saying we need people in government who understand that it's time for people in government to be on the side of the people, to understand that you're a servant leader first. You are there to take care of the cares and concerns of your people, not to get rich, not to make money. In fact, I've had to sacrifice more money than pretty much anybody else going into this race, because most people know that that I've had a pretty fair share of success, and I'm choosing my words wisely because I don't want to seem arrogant. But I've established some success in terms of endorsement deals and working with corporates. But to run for a political office, I had to sacrifice all of my endorsement deals. I can show you the letters from every legal department. Now,
I mean, that's
I make more money from those endorsement deals than I would ever make in the House. So for me, it's not a money thing. It's about saying that, trying to show our generation and the powers that be and everybody in Nigeria that we should expect different. We should expect more. We should expect better from our officials.
What should the people of Etiosa constituency expect from you? What will your priorities be?
So my priorities, like I said before, are education, healthcare, youth inclusion and job creation and youth inclusion, and gender equality. And these are things that I think that we need in Etiosa, but they're also things that I think that we need in Nigeria as a whole. So what we're saying is, starting here, can we fix school by school? Can we fix the curriculum? Can we provide computers so that the next generation of kids in Nigeria are not being set up for failure? If you have a school that does not have a working computer now, in 2018, man, you can't be the leader or a businessman or a billionaire tomorrow if you're not using today's technology. We need to have affordable healthcare on the table. I've had 3 battles with cancer so far, and I'm grateful to God that I've come out the other side and I've survived. But I still have the scars and I still have the pain. But more important than that, I understand how difficult and costly and all of that is. So you have a situation in Nigeria where the majority of our people can't afford the very basic of bills. That's what has informed. I'm an ambassador for the Pinko Cancer Trust Fund. So I've been raising money for them and putting my own money into it to say, can we help even one person or 5 or 20 people pay for these bills? So I think that
can relate with it.
Because I relate with it. Like I've been through it now. I'm lucky and fortunate and blessed enough that I was able to afford it.
Yeah.
But what happens to the rest? Like Nigeria needs to get to the point where it's not just the outliers that have a chance. You know, my favorite thing about the music business is how many young people we've been able to empower. And people automatically think of the Whiz Kids and the Scales and the DJ Exclusives, but you know, we're talking not just artists, we're talking producers, we're talking engineers, we're talking photographers, we're talking people in fashion. We're talking people across every level, every sphere in entertainment who, by virtue of what we've... I'm sorry, am I talking too long?
Okay, just hold your thoughts for a second.
Okay.
We'll go on again.
Okay, and then we'll come back. So my favorite thing about having come from the music business is that what we've been able to do with the music business is we've, in spite of government or the lack of government's help, in spite of how difficult it is, we've been able to set up shop, created some success, and then created success for other people. So, and we're not just talking about the artists. We're not talking about just Wizkid or Scales or DJ Exclusive. We're talking about people in the entertainment, in the economy of the entertainment business, photographers, fashion people, managers, studio engineers, producers, the entire value chain. And we've been able to create something and create hope and create opportunity and empower people where the people that I've worked with and we've worked with as a company over the years, we have a lot of success stories. You know, it's still one by one.
Do you think you can transfer that success? Because a lot of people feel, you know, that's hope. And our politicians are quick to, you know, when they go for international meetings and all, or point to the Nigerian entertainment scene and the music and
the
movie
difference
industry.
the difference with that is they can point to it. I've been in it. I've worked in it. I've come from the standpoint of not knowing anybody in a field. When I started in the music business, I didn't know a soul. I didn't know one person, one DJ, one OAP. I just had this dream of that. Shibi them Jay-Z did it over there. We can do it here. So we just start working. And that's all I know. All I know is just dreaming a dream, setting specific goals, and then just working until they come true.
But you're going to be working with civil servants and people that have been used to a particular way of doing things and they feel it's the right way. You try to stop corruption. They say, oh, it's where we walk, that's where we chop. They're used to that endemic corruption. Are you ready to go toe-to-toe with the system? Because you're entirely challenging a whole system that people have been used to.
Here's the thing about challenging whole systems. You need to kind of create some cracks in the wall. And that's what we're doing. We're saying that we have two options now. We can do things the same way that we've done them since we became a democracy. Or we can get the guts together to make a push for it and to start to show, to lead by example, to lead by involvement, that these things can be done differently. And anybody who is up for working with us to do things differently, we will work with. That's why I said, and that's why also we decided to register our own party and not to come up under one of the other systems. Because when you come up under them, you have to answer to them. You have to kind of toe the party line. You have to support who they tell you to support. They have to use your voice, even if you don't believe in specific people or policies. And that's why we're doing it this way. Because we're saying that if we are going to get in, we're going to get in under our own terms and conditions. We're going to get a seat at the table of governance in Nigeria, but we're going to bring our own chair. We're not going to come in saying this person or that person handed it to me. We're going to say that we're going to push for it as a generation. And what will happen is this. One, we will get a chance to start to work in the system, to learn the system, to collaborate with, challenge, and so on and so forth. But also, we will inspire our generation. So the way that you will know that this is successful is if 2023 comes around and you see a bunch of young, credible candidates going for positions all over the place. I'm talking about councillors, local government chairmen, State House of Assembly, House of Reps, and these are all potentially credible candidates who are not part of the rot. So that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to inspire that. We're trying to tell this generation that we can either do things the same way and get skipped over again and still be complaining, and then our children will come and point fingers at us and say, well, what did you do?
As the demand for tangible proof of the health status of President Ali Bongo by the Gabonese people and opposition party has accused the government of peddling a lie over the president's health, asking for declaration of the health of the president. President Bongo was taken to hospital in Riyadh on October 24th after he arrived to attend an economic forum. 4 days later, his spokesman, Mr. Ike Ngoni, said the president had been admitted for severe fatigue. However, Mr. Ngoni acknowledged that Mr. Bongo had been treated for serious illness. The president's condition has now greatly improved and is recovering most of his functions, Ngoni added. The national union stated that the two statements were contradictory and warned it would be harmful to the country if the government withheld vital information. It called on Prime Minister Emmanuel Isoze Ngondet to fly to Riyadh accompanied by a national representative to meet with President Bongo. A foreign source close to Mr. Bongo and his French-born wife Sylvia, however, stated that Bongo had a stroke. That'll be it for Politics with GA. Today, I am Gbenga Aborowa. Thanks for watching. The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter.